welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name's Rodney.
And my name is Zach.
And also joining us, Christian Horner here. No, I'm just kidding. No, I won't. What? I can't go back to that well. Although, thank you for everyone who said they enjoyed last week's show. As I've said many times, all the best things that we do, someone immediately rips them off. And of course, there's been this thing going around of all this guy doing all the impressions. Luckily, I snuck in a few days early and on time stamped it by putting them all in a podcast. So, sometimes I have good moments.
Exactly. Did you see, while we're talking about Christian Horner, was it a tweet from Eli GP or somebody? I'll get it. I won't look it up. But, it did the rounds. I think I retweeted it. Of Christian Horner and David Beckham, like, hugging and chatting.
Photo.
It's like, yeah, the photo. What do these two have in common? And I was like, what is that? And then, that they both are married to Spice Girls. But then someone said they're Spice in-laws, and Spice in-laws is, I'm down for that.
Spice in-laws. Poor boy. It'd be nice to be like, what you could be, if you were Christian Horner's cousin, you could be his second cousin, Spice removed.
That wasn't a planned bit, and that was very good.
That's the name of this episode. Zach, it was the Qatar Grand Prix. This week, the notes say... Wait, can you see the top of the notes? What do the notes say?
They say Qatar GP.
Qatar. They say Qatar notation because we're going to be doing... The most interesting thing about this race is guitar puns, apparently. Guitar notation. There was a race. I mean... Oh boy, not a great one, but there was one. But luckily, there's the Fantasy League to check in on. I've got a super quiz to do. We're going to be talking F1 for a little bit. If you're disappointed in the race, we're going to do our best to keep you interested and entertained and loving this F1 sport. Yeah.
Do you want to do Zach live Googles whilst talking? Fun. That's a fun game.
Always.
Sometimes. So... I remember being told by someone a long time ago that the name Qatar comes from it should mimic the sound of a water droplet, like landing on like a piece of metal, like Qatar. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, lightly on
sort of, yeah.
Percussive surface.
It's what do they call it? Onomatopoeia sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spelt the way it sounds.
So I'm going to
Are you Googling that to find out if that's true?
The name Qatar, which was exclusively used until the 18th century, after which the Qatar emerged as the most commonly recognized spelling. Eventually, after several variations, Katr, Kattar, and Guttur, the modern derivative Qatar was adopted as the country's name. But no, none of the probably quite apocryphal it should sound like this, or it comes from that. But maybe I think that's just a pronunciation advice. Qatar.
But now we have to do the Mythbusters style. Well, where does the water drop story come from? Qatar water drop. Let me have a look.
You know what? The only annoying thing about the name Qatar is that the Q and A are really close to the caps lock on a keyboard, and I always hit the caps lock by accident. And then I'm like, Q, capital T-R-A-R.
That is true. I typed in water drop Qatar, and one of the results is, what does the water drop emoji mean? Which I don't want to get into in case it gets a bit adult, but...
oh, no.
No, we don't want to go there. Abort, Control Z. Well, look, yeah. It's a great story, though. I liked it, and it's a romantic story, which is good. Yeah, maybe we should get into the race review?
Yeah, I suppose.
Cool. Just feeling for some little bit of time while I find where my buttons have gone.
That's okay.
And,
got a finger on the button.
Found them.
Let us race a bit. I gave him space.
Suck my balls, mate. Let's hurry up and get out of here. We've got a race to do.
More action in that intro than the whole race delivered. But, Zach, it is your turn to do a 30-second recap, so sucked in hard, I suppose.
Do you know what's
fun? You don't
fun?
need good luck. Yes?
If you've been listening to the show for a while and you like that race intro, but, it's been around for a little bit of time now,
sure.
And you hear the suck my balls, mate. Just imagine it says smack my balls, mate. Which I just did, and it's way more fun. I was like, did you say smack my balls, mate? Like that?
I thought you meant you just smacked yourself in the balls.
No. What about the idea that Magnus says, smack my balls, mate?
Look,
smack them.
Imagine what you want. That's all I've got to say about that. You have to do a 30-second recap. I've got the counter here. I know that sometimes you can't hear it clearly, so I will give you a go and a stop just in case. But for everyone else's sake, here is your timer. Here I go. I'm going to hit play now, and you are going to go right now.
We all spent our Sunday mornings, or perhaps days, working out all of the classification, disqualifications, or movements amongst the grid, and then finally the grid was sorted.
20 seconds.
With Hamilton on the front and Verstappen a few steps back, and then Bottas a few steps back even further. But we got the result we all expected, which is Hamilton won, Verstappen came second. But the surprise of the day, Fernando Alonso held off everybody and managed to finish third, and it's been, I think, 700 years since either him or Alpine were on the podium, which is great. Hamilton catches Verstappen a little bit, and it's all to play for.
It's all to play for, don't you know?
Squeeze
I'm led to believe that this race was worth points, and Max Verstappen, he didn't get them all, but given the circumstances and where he started, he probably did the best he could have. And he said, even if I started on the front row next to Hamilton, I probably still would have been second today. So, I mean, he's probably not coming away from Qatar. He's probably not coming away from the race feeling too bad. But before the race, boy, they were not happy at Red Bull for two reasons. Number one, they got what I think we can all probably agree is a bit of a harsh penalty given the circumstances of qualifying, but to find out the way they did, it was like I think the lights were going on and they were like, you have to go back 5. And it's like, what the hell? The lights are going on. It was an hour and a half before the race. They got told, grid drop 5 spots, which is huge. And you can't even anticipate that. You can't strategize for it. That is just, I'm really unimpressed. I think the stewards are really, they've got questions to answer.
Botched it. Well, there'll be different guys at the next race probably, so don't worry about it. No,
maybe. But not good. Definitely Red Bull were not happy. Christian Horner and Helmut Marko got in big trouble for saying that, these bloody errand rogue marshals dropping flags. The FIA's got to do something about it because they've just got no control over their staff at the moment. They're like, hey, and they had to come back and apologize. But, it was a bit like that. That was basically kind of what happened. So I don't know. They're telling the truth.
Yeah, it's been a real week of all off-track banter and showing that basically none of it matters at all because on the racetrack it's status quo, which is Verstappen and Hamilton. Hamilton's really fast. Verstappen is pretty fast as well. Yes. All of these things are just like tiny tit for tat in the margin, distracted. Like I think maybe Mercedes and Red Bull know that like this championship might be won on like a very fine margin. So whatever you can to like disrupt and destabilize the other teams, distract them in any way with like superfluous challenges to rear wing flexing. Like the tinfoil hat brigade has been out in force on Twitter with like picking apart every little bit of footage. I feel like that's all we've been talking about. Not to mention the key words from the weekend. Damage limitation is all I've heard from Red Bull this weekend. This is damage limitation. He was always going to get. I've never seen a race play out exactly as people expected, regardless of all of the pre-race. Like, oh my god, they moved him in. Who's got a grid drop and all that kind of stuff, and we still just got exactly what we expected, which was Hamilton won, Verstappen came second, and got the fastest lap. Like, of course, it was always going to be that way, which I find somewhat distressing that we are there and it's just playing out exactly as we had hoped. And I hope the last couple of races aren't quite like that. But if they are, I suppose Hamilton will win the championship. Is that kind of where we're at if he wins the last 2?
We are. There's only 2 races to go. We are in a situation where we're already talking about, well, if Verstappen finishes here and Hamilton finishes here, Verstappen will win. I think he can actually wrap it up next race, depending on where Hamilton finishes. But obviously, it's like, well, if he, if Verstappen wins and gets fastest lap and Hamilton comes 10th or lower or something, then he wins. But those sort of academic equations are floating around. But I think, like we said a few weeks ago, there was like, I ran 4 trillion possibilities and 90% have Verstappen winning. Like, well, yeah, but now Hamilton's won a race, so that closes the gap. Being in front will always put you in. Yes, being in front will always put you in front statistically, but it doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, there's 2 races and you've got to beat the other guy in both of them to win. That's kind of how it's going to shake out. But
have you just as a question, this is maybe picking up on something earlier that you said that Verstappen said, he said, I trust you that he said it. That was, even if I'd started first, I wouldn't have won this race, or second, or next to him on the grid, regardless. There is something I've heard mentioned in other sports scenarios around the idea of like competitive myth building. So the idea that you build up your opposition. It's like one of the greatest, oh, they're so good. So that when you beat them, you can be like, well, I mean, I'm never going to say that I'm the best, but I just said this guy was the best and I won and I beat them. So, it's a look. So you don't need to build your own myth. You build a myth around your competitor, and then you can say, well, like Nico Rosberg and Hamilton, right? Like Rosberg built the myth helps build the myth that Hamilton's, and continues to, and Hamilton's just the greatest of all time. Oh my God, he's just so good. And then,
can you believe how good he is? And then I beat him.
But then remember how I won the World Championship in 2016? Who was that against again? Who were the other people on the grid that year? A lot of world champions around, Lewis, including me. Yeah. So, at his own game. But I like that idea that like they never slag each other off. You never hear like Hamilton being like, or Verstappen being like, anybody can be faster than that Mercedes. Hamilton's fine. It's always like, oh my God, they're just so good. And we're the real underdogs. And every time we're even close, that's a win for all of Formula One and its audience. It's not. Yeah,
they really talk about it in abstractions, don't they? They're kind of just like, we won today because we were fast, or they won today because they were fast, or they were fast and we did our best, or, it's always this sort of abstract thing as if like, do you realize that you were driving? Like a lot of it was you. You pressed a lot of buttons, lots of pedaling. You pedaled so much. But it's always like, oh, it just,
left
they
leg,
were
right
faster,
leg.
so they were. Yes, exactly. I saw you turning and pressing buttons at one point and radio and drinking. Oh my goodness. And the pit stops don't even get into it. Anyway. As we say, the main story from the race is what happened with the leaders and where did the points shake out. The other main story, though, Fernando Alonso back on the podium. Hooray!
Hooray! We're happy for him, I suppose. Taking up
after 7 long years.
Piastri spot. God.
He's an old man.
I'm already angry at him. Piastri could be in that car right now.
Classic bloody boomers taking these spots from the millennials that could be, they're the future. They could be blooded for next year.
Gen Zer even. Piastri, he's probably 12 years old or something like that.
I think that's right.
That's his podium that Fernando's taken. Doesn't Fernando have enough?
He doesn't need the money.
Almost wins.
He's got enough trophies. He's already a former champion.
Come on,
what
man.
does he need? After watching Ocon get the win, getting a podium for Fernando is the least that he could do. And I mean, there were a few things that sort of assured it. One was tyre problems, which we'll get to next maybe. But also the other thing, which I sort of thought was a bit neat, was a few races ago when Ocon won, it was up to Fernando to hold up Hamilton for a little while, which he did very, very well. And then Ocon got the chance to, not that he did quite as good a job, but he got to hold up Perez slightly, and that
he came back at
percentages. He came back at him. He definitely. This isn't the kind of track where you can come back that much, but he slowed him down a little bit. Kept him interested, even though after Perez has got the overtake done. But Ocon just playing the team game and being like, nah, I need to make sure that my bro Fernando gets up on the podium.
Fernando. Why were they so quick? Where does this come from? How come Alpine suddenly? Are they the only team developing their car still, and everybody else stopped developing it 6 races ago? And Alpine are like, we could get some more out of this.
I think it's one of those weird, unfamiliar tracks. I had a suspicion that something weird was going to get thrown up at this race. I didn't expect that, for example, the AlphaTauri would be rubbish and that the Alpine would be very good. Didn't pick that, but it also doesn't surprise me that we saw some skewed performance from some teams and other teams. That Hamilton and Verstappen are always going to be right there. But I did think it was going to be a bit strange. Oh, actually, I didn't get into this before. When I've been watching the replays mostly lately, like not watching the races live. And when I put it on, I was very busy in the morning and just got to put on the race and just skip straight to the formation lap. And I didn't know the story, didn't know anything about it. 2 things that happened. One thing was that I'd accidentally seen something on Twitter and I didn't see the results, but I saw someone tweeting about Article 34.5 states that blah, 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 and therefore a grid drop. And that was all I saw. I didn't know what that meant. And I kind of figured in my mind, Hamilton, Verstappen, they must have crashed and now one of them's been given a grid drop. There's going to be an amazing race. So I watched the whole race waiting for that to play out, which obviously didn't happen. That was referring to something from qualifying. So first of all, got my hopes up incredibly, but that was completely dashed. But second of all, I hit start on the race and they were like, and Gasly defends from Hamilton. And I was like, wait a second, what was Gasly on the right? Wasn't Bottas on the front row? I mean, with all the penalties, everyone's got dropped, and it was so mixed up that I was very confused. After the week before being very confused, but mostly that was because I was watching the wrong race. So I did have to pause it and just double check. Am I watching the right race? This is Qatar.
Yeah.
Gasly, front row. Okay.
I think that says something about the racetracks as well that is maybe going unsaid, which is that maybe this part of the season all looks pretty much exactly the same. So it's not like you could immediately...
A little bit.
A lot of the tracks, I think I could show you a shot of the starting grid and you could be like, I know what, that's the Hungaroring, or that's, Spa or Monaco. But like a lot of those tracks, it's just like, it's because a lot of them are newer to us, right? You don't have the historical like memory of how they line up and fit. But yeah, this could have been anywhere. It could have been anything. It was just, why do we have to finish the season with these dark lights races? I mean, the sparks are good, but geez. We just coming back for potatoes and mash every meal. Like, yum, yum, yum.
Yeah, all right. I mean, we didn't get a Singapore race. I guess this was a little bit like a Singapore race where there was fireworks.
Yeah, I suppose that's
I mean,
true.
the one
but
thing
there's
I
no
did like
marina.
was
there's no beautiful
there's no marina.
sight lines or like skyline or anything. It's just a barren wasteland.
After the race, the way that they were having the sort of lights go on and off and the lights were snaking around the track, I did kind of like the look of that. And I know it would be incredibly dangerous, but I was like, oh, it'd be fun to drive with those lights. Like just for 10 laps or something, just be
imagine
like, interference.
Oh, imagine, because it's all, we've done quizzes on like how many lights light up these night tracks. It's like, 60,000 per square inch in order to make it it's brighter than daylight. What if just before they start turning the 5 lights on, they turned all the lights off, like it goes into pitch black darkness. And then as that first red light comes on, they turn they turn the starting grid lights on, and then they turn one on, and then they turn this middle part of the track. And once they turn up, once they get on the formation lap, once they're on the grid, to turn all the lights off. That'd be amazing. I mean, it would be really bad for the driver's eyes, probably. They'd be blinded.
The first clue that I had with something was going on, I remember they were showing in the not the pit lane, but wherever the drivers pull up after the race. And it was a shot of Verstappen, and he was just like getting a towel, wiping his face, being as cool as a cucumber. And then all the lights went out, and I went, oh, something's going to happen. There's going to be a show, like James Brown's going to come out or something. This is it, everybody. But it was just a light show that they were doing. But I don't know. It's, again, after a race that was maybe pretty lackluster, I'll take any entertainment that I can get. A whole bunch of people who had a really entertaining race. Valtteri Bottas, Lando Norris, George Russell, and Queen Latifah. They all had tyre punctures, which, not a great look, to have a whole bunch of tyres blow up. I did see that Valtteri Bottas saw the funny side of it. Someone posted that he put on social media his Strava bike ride, and he was like, 40 Ks around Monaco going, no punctures today. Ha ha ha. So that's pretty good. But yeah, Mercedes reckon, I just love this quote. Mercedes reckon that it's a bizarre quirk of the Qatar curbs, which is possibly correct, but also very difficult to say.
Yeah. I mean, it did seem that people were going over the curbs and then their tires were bursting open. And Fernando, I liked Fernando Alonso on the radio. I was like, will we make it? And they're like, yeah, man. Just be really, really, really careful. Just be incredibly worried about it, and don't put too much on the left tire, the front left.
Don't worry about it, but just drive as if your car's going to explode.
Exactly. Did you ever play, there's a Need for Speed game called Porsche Unleashed. Did you ever play that? You don't play a huge amount of racing games.
I only played Need for Speed Carbon. That was the only one I ever played.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Yeah, I played most of them until I was 10 years ago. But sure. Porsche Unleashed was an interesting one because it was all Porsche stuff, like Porsche through the ages. And it was a mix of like this driving school where you'd have to learn how to like do intense driving, things like 360s and J-turns and all this kind of interesting stuff. Interspersed with like races, also like a career mode where you work your way through like the age, like all Porsche cars from like the 1950s onwards. But then there was this other part of the career mode where you worked at this dealer, this Porsche dealership, and you would be tasked with having to drive the car from the dealership to the the shipping container.
Zero damage mode.
Exactly. You had to get it there without a scratch on it, but as fast as possible. And it was like the most stressful thing. That's all I can think of with Fernando when you were like, freak out, but be calm.
At one point, I did have a job where my job was deliver new cars to people who were expecting spotless, pristine new cars. And
You did
there was
that?
one time where I had to get it. Yeah, I did that. They weren't like luxury cars or anything, but still, like some of them were nice. But I had to get them out of this garage with the cars were 6 foot wide, and there was like concrete brick.
6.1.
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe a bit more than that. But I was like, 19, like I can get the car through there. Don't even worry about it. And I think one time I definitely put 2 scrapes down the door of a brand new, like I'm talking like less than 10 Ks on the
It's off the factory floor.
Oh boy, yeah, it's not a good conversation. Luckily, I never had to make the call to the owner to be like, "Sorry, I know you're expecting your car right now, your brand new pristine car. Sorry that's not going to happen. We have to repaint the door." But I did that to somebody. So if that was you, I'm very sorry. Anyway, we're talking about tyres exploding. So Pirelli is still investigating. I hope we'll find out, but I'm sure it's going to be the curbs. And I mean, I don't think we're coming back to this Qatar street, quote unquote street track or whatever it was, but we're going to some other track apparently. So I guess we'll find out.
After, right?
Yes, that's right. I think we'll find out.
Bit of time.
There'll be some announcement about what they think caused it, but I mean, it won't really be. It's a problem that solves itself because we're not going back there again. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the race, really. Oh, McLaren had another bad one. They've only scored 4 points in the last 3 races, which is just so not very many points at all.
Yeah, Ferrari's got their measure now. I don't think that unless Ferrari have unless Sainz and Leclerc, who continue to be separated, not at the hip, joined at the hip is what I was trying to say. Where did they finish this race? Oh, Sainz 7, Leclerc 8. Huh, funny about that. They're the new Leclerc finishing 10th. Like it's just, or Perez finishing 10th, I suppose, back in the day. It's incredible. They are just perfectly matched. They see each other at the start of the race, and then the end of the race, it's like, hey, just here we are, parked next to each other again. Funny about that.
Yeah, like the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other. That's them, but driving the whole race.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine if that was the front of the grid. How interesting it would be.
Well, speaking of interesting, this race was not interesting. So maybe we move on to the Fantasy League. Let's get up the results and see how good or bad we did. Do you want to do the race or the league?
I've got the race up if you want me to do that.
Please, and I'll pull up the league.
Cool. Okay, in 3rd place, now this is pod racing. The this is capitalized, so I added that. It's an interesting... But I like playing those games, right? How could you change this to make it more interesting? Now, this is pod racing, or this is pod racing. That's probably the most recent one. I would say maybe the best one, right? Because we knew that it was racing, but what are pods? Now, this is pod racing. Now, this is pod racing. Anyway, that's enough of that dumb joke. Now, this is pod racing from Josh Covey, 161 points. In 2nd, Tangelo Racing from Tony Saint, 177 points. Well done. And High Rake the Forest from Big Nick Sorry, Nick. Big Nick House, 181 points. A good return. No double centurions this week, but there's still a couple of races to go. Oh, still the opportunity. Would you like me to find where I was? Perhaps you're interested in that.
Yeah, if you like.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I can get it up with the league results.
Yeah. Where am I? I always click the little person, like that's meant to take me to it.
Yeah, the code doesn't work. It's broken.
Yeah, well, we should have a chat to them. Maybe we can rebuild their whole thing from the ground up as
Yeah, maybe we could do that.
Consultants.
Sure.
No, I'm not on that page.
No,
Maybe
it's
I'm
okay.
on this page. Yeah,
don't even worry about it.
Here I am. I was 44th in the table this week. 44th.
44. That's top 50, buddy. Well done.
Exactly. You were 33rd.
Yeah,
so congratulations to you. Look at us with our racing numbers. I'm Lewis, and you're Verstappen. How about that?
Double digit. Boom, boom, boom. That's like we did it on purpose. I know I did.
I got 99 points as well. So that's Giovinazzi.
Amazing. This is like that. What was that thing for a few weeks ago where they're like car number 1 and then there were 2 drivers and someone was 3 years old and then there were 4 Tuesdays this month. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell? This is boring.
Number Wang, exactly.
Let's get into the league results because I don't want to shock you, Zach, but there has been movement in the top 3. Big movement. After I said things were settled, they're not settled at all. You're probably used to hearing me say in position 3, manager hypothesis, but no, they dropped 2 positions down to 5th, storming up into 3rd. Team Leclerc Dynamics by Tim T. Brown, falling from top spot into second, Yucknut and French Castle by Fleuge, absolutely trounced this week by the new reigning league leader, Tangelo Racing by Tony Saint. The difference between first and second, Zach, a measly 1.5 points.
What? This is where the real Formula One season is.
Absolutely. This is F1 season racing, if you want to recycle that term. I don't think I did it right, but I'll try it again later. It's all to play for in the top three. And as you pointed out, we both did okay this week in terms of our points. And I can tell you in terms of the effect on the league, you have not moved anywhere, but I have gained 1 place. Fucking coming for you.
No, mate. 2 races to go.
No, I only need 8 more races and I'm going to get you.
Yeah, that's what they say. Imagine if there was a few more laps. Then it would have been a completely different race and the person who they were catching would have had a completely different tyre strategy. So don't worry about it.
They do say that. It's about 40-something points between us, though. So it's...
okay. So if I forget to do my predictions, that the version of a DNF, then you'll catch me. Yeah.
That's fine. Okay.
Maybe I'll pay to change my team for one last roll of the dice.
No, you should do it. Actually do it. Put all the worst drivers in and teams in. It'd be funny.
Well, they say that if the money, the budget you don't use, you get to keep. So people don't often remember that.
Shall we do a super quiz?
Yeah.
We will accept a couple of questions.
Should one only win one? Would one want to have won that one in round 1?
Can you repeat the question?
Smack my
super
balls,
quiz
mate.
time, Zach. Very good. Someone do a smack my bitch up mashup of that. So, Zach, we're known for quizzes that are a bit silly, often very puntastic with puntastic titles. This week's puntastic title is Fernando Alonso. Fuck this quiz.
Great.
It's back Fernando Alonso.
Uh-huh.
It's
we
been a long
haven't
time
done many
between...
quizzes about him. Do you think he's the most quizzed fanatic? Like, of all of our quizzes?
That's an interesting quiz that we could do. The most quizzed quizzes to ever quiz.
Too meta. Oh, God.
It's been a long time between slightly elevated drinks for Fernando, having to wait 7 years between his last podium finish, which was in Hungary 2014, and this race weekend. So here's a quiz about what has happened in the time in between. I've got for you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, babe. Do it.
In the last 7 years, babe, let's just keep moving. Don't worry about that. Don't focus on that at all.
Don't let anyone know the real dynamics of our relationship.
In the last 7 years, other than Formula One, what are the 3 major prominent forms of organised racing that Fernando Alonso has taken part in between this podium and his last podium?
Okay, he did WEC.
Ding.
Did he do rally?
One specific kind of rally, the most famous kind?
The World Rally Championship?
Starts with the letter D.
Oh, the Dakar Rally.
Specific, the Dakar
and he also
Rally. I knew you would get it. Yep.
Indy 500.
He did the Indy 500. He's done that one 3 times. So that's
he
right.
He wants the
WEC,
quadruple
IndyCar
crown.
500. He wants the, he's just inventing his own crown with however many talons he wants. I think we decided they were talons. For a long time, I couldn't work out what they were called.
Okay.
Not even sure they are talons, but there's something. Yeah, you got that. You get 3 for 3. You're flying out of the gate. Between podiums, so between the last podium and the next podium,
the premise of the quiz,
Fernando Alonso raced in 105 races, and although podiums were hard to come by, what percentage of those races saw him scoring points? I've got multiple choice.
Oh,
so
great.
think of all the races between 2014 and 2021. Was he in the points for 24% of the time, 33% of the time, or 42% of the time?
I'm going to say 33% of the time.
Sorry, you're incorrect. The correct answer, a surprising 42% of the time.
Wow. With that horrible McLaren.
I know. He was at McLaren for 4 years, but actually, surprisingly, for 2 of the 4 years, he got close to 50% point finishes. So there were some terrible years, no doubt. Exactly. What a whinger. No, 2 of those 4 years, he actually did okay.
That was the period where we were like, regardless of what happens and how bad that car is, Fernando Alonso will drag it to 6th. He will just find a fucking way to drag it to 6th.
But he also did, he's done very well this year. Lots of points finishes. So that's kind of just tipped the scales back in balance. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. 42% point finishes. Very good. Question the number 3. In the last 7 years, How many of the championships that have been won were won by former teammates of his?
Fuck, that's a great question. Oh, the last 7 years. How many of them were won by former teammates of his? He and Lewis Hamilton were teammates at one point. Why does that feel wrong when I say it? But I'm sure it's right. They were at McLaren at the same time. At some point. Yeah, that feels right. Yeah.
You want a bit more rope? You haven't hung yourself yet.
Yeah, fuck.
No, I'm just being quiet, just letting you talk it out.
Yeah. I'm going to say of the 7 that have happened, there's only been one other world champion basically in that time. Oh no, when did I'm going to edit all this out because I'm going to edit it together. I'm going to say one of the other drivers. So Lewis won all of them except for the one that Rosberg won, and him and Rosberg were never pals in a driver's team setup. What do they call a team? So what was the question again? How many of them? One driver.
No. How many of the championships? How many championships?
Cool.
So years. Were won by
6.
Former teammates of his.
6
I've got Lewis Hamilton 6. None by any of his former teammates besides Hamilton. Yes, that's right. 6. I just, good. It's one that seems obvious, but it's deceptively obvious. Like, wait a second, is he trying to trick me? But I wasn't. It was a double bluff. So you're going pretty well. You're recovering here. 2 questions left. Between his 2 most recent podiums, Fernando has sat out 3 races. Zach, I want you to tell me which 3 drivers have sat in for him during those races.
He set out 3 races and he's had drivers come in and do it for him.
Yeah. He was lazy, just decided, don't run a race, can't be bothered. And 3 other different drivers sat in for him.
Jenson Button.
That was one, yes.
Yep. That was at McLaren because Stoffel was already in the other seat, so he couldn't fill in for Fernando, although he wishes he was. God, the other 2 times. Did we have Guido van der Garde or something?
No Guido van der Garde.
No, okay, no Guido van der Garde. Do we have... what about Jolyon Palmer? No?
No Jolyon Palmer.
Okay, maybe Rubens Barrichello?
No, these guys I think they were reserve drivers that were elevated into being actual drivers.
Oh, yeah, but did Lando Norris fill in for him one time then?
No, not Lando Norris.
Okay.
Before there was Lando at McLaren, there was other people.
McLaren? No idea. Who? Tell me.
You mentioned one of the names before.
Okay.
But he wasn't sitting alongside him at that time. At that time, he was a reserve driver.
Oh, okay.
His name is... Great sounding name. A little bit grimy, but not really.
Nico Rosberg?
No, okay. No, you're not going to get that.
No, I have no idea.
So Stoffel Van Dorn was one.
Oh,
he was the reserve driver before becoming.
So when I said that wasn't him, it was him. Oh, God.
Yes. Well, I mean, no. When you said that he was sitting in the other seat, which is true when Button sat in for him, but it wasn't true.
Yes,
that's right. And before that, Kevin Magnussen was a reserve driver, but sat in for him for one race at the start of, I think it was the 2015 season, maybe.
Was that when he... No. When did he come second, Kevin Magnussen, for McLaren in that silver?
That was after that.
McLaren. It can't have been.
That, I don't
know. No, it must have been before that because I was still in Australia. 2014.
Maybe. Yeah, no, it's true. It must have been after that. Don't remember. Look, the point is, those are the 3 drivers. Magnussen, Stoffel, and Button.
Good question.
Good try. You were all around it, though.
No, was a good fuck that. I was nowhere near it. I said Guido van der Garde and Jolyon Palmer.
That's what you say. Your last question. Fernando Alonso waited 2,674 days between his podiums, but there is one driver who still holds the record for most days between 2 different podium finishes at a whopping 2,842 days. Zach, the obvious question to ask you is, who is that driver?
Who is that driver? Is it Sebastian Vettel?
Nope.
Okay, Kimi Räikkönen. Nope. Okay, no idea.
Between podiums. Maybe you're thinking wins?
No, I'm thinking podiums.
Okay. Do you want initials?
Oh, yeah.
AW.
Oh. AW.
Mm-hmm.
Far out. Alexander Verline. That wasn't his first name.
Oh, you're so close.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No.
Not Alexander Verline, but Alexander. Say it. Just say it. It's right there. Say it.
I can't words.
I'll give you a point. The correct answer is Alexander Wirtz. You're essentially all but said the
Alexander, the Squirts Wirtz. He's done it. Yes.
Alexander Verstappen. No, Alexander Wirtz. 1997 for Benetton at the Silverstone Grand Prix, and then in 2005 at the San Marino Grand Prix, also for McLaren. He subbed in for
Pablo Montoya.
Pablo Montoya. He finished in P4, but 2 cars ahead of him were disqualified. He really Bradbury his way into that podium. Yes, exactly. So he still holds the record for most days between consecutive podiums. But, I say Fernando's only 40. Was he 42? 41? He can still go for that. Give it another go. Come back in 3,000 days.
I only knew him as Al. That was the problem. Alexander. No one called him that.
Yeah, that's it. We all, in his inner circle, we all just call him Verts the Squirts. That was
that way he was the best, though, not the worst.
That's true. That was the Fernando Alonso. Fuck this quiz. For another week. The quiz is done.
Fernando Aloris, right? That was that was the highlight.
Hey, remember when that happened? That was a great one.
I remember my great joke.
Well, speaking of great jokes, it's time for us to come up with a final thought. Something that we
wrote one down.
Great job.
I had it, and I was like, Amber, I'm going to write this one down.
What even say you're writing down? No, nothing. It's just a final thought for a podcasting that it's no big deal.
Don't worry about it. Let me go to Slack and go to... Do you write messages to yourself? I write them to myself.
Not in Slack, no.
There was a clip of Lewis Hamilton being... they were interviewing him, and then somebody was driving one of the V10, either it was like a Benetton or a Renault, like an old car around the Qatari circuit. And he stopped the interview. Was like, oh, that sound. Like he was just having like a little moment of bliss. Like the Seinfeld episode with the guy who loves the Eagles song. It doesn't matter. Like he was just having a little little moment. He's like, God, those cars just sound so good. Like, can we go back to those? And I thought, Lewis, yes, we can, because we're going to have these synthetic fuels soon. So, why do we muck about with all these little we've got to keep the fuel loads low and we need Kers and Mers and Jers and Fleurs. We've got synthetic fuels. It's made in a lab. Let's just use those and go back to the mega awesome, high rev, super high sounding great cars.
Oh, I see what you're saying. We can have better sounding cars by burning more fuel because we're making incredibly efficient fuel.
Yeah, because it's synthetic. We're not pulling it out of the ground. If the hype is to be believed that has been put out by Aramco and Formula One. And maybe they will burn more efficiently. Maybe they'll just turn into steam or something. Who knows? Probably not that. But let's have... surely we can make some pretty efficient V10s these days. We could still have Kers and Blurs and Shers, and MG UKs and stuff. But let's get the high revving engines back. The 18,000 revs per second, per minute. Per minute, not per second. That would be insane. Per minute. Engines, what do you think? Okay. That's reasonable, right?
I guess it sounds like on paper, it all sounds good. I don't know how it actually would work out, but your logic is sound.
That's that then. Who do I need to write?
Were you stunned for that? I agree with you, right?
No. I don't think it's a particularly I think it's a good idea. I don't think it's controversial. Yep. Well, let me follow up with this question then. Do you miss the sound of those cars more or less than you expected? Or about what you expected?
We're so used to the sound of the current cars or lack of sound that how I feel about it now is different to how I felt about it when it first was introduced in the hybrid era. But even back then, at the where the contrast was, the most obvious, I didn't feel that bad about it then anyway. So it's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. They just got this wah sound now. They sound good coming out of
Whatever.
corners when they're accelerating, right? Wah. I like that.
They sound fine on the onboards. I don't know. Yeah, I don't mind the sound profile. Sounds fine to me.
Okay.
What do I know?
Well, a lot.
Not for
You're a
everybody.
Formula One pundit.
True. I do make puns on this show. Not my best, but anyway.
It's fine. Tell me about your thought of the day, or what is it? What do we call it? Final thought. Thought of the day. Welcome to Thought of the Day, my 2-minute podcast.
I saw this happen before the race, and I was very pleased to see Lewis Hamilton come out and say, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, you guys have some human rights issues you got to deal with there. Because he said coming in that, I mean, it was a bit of a question mark. Like, is Lewis going to come out and condemn these places? Not that it's up to him to do it. Everybody should be doing it. But what is he going to do? And he got here and he talked the talk, and it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, they do need to do better. They all need to do better. I mean, I don't think that him having like a rainbow helmet is going to change anything, but him talking about it definitely does. Getting written about definitely does. Us talking about it does something too.
No, this is all control the narrative kind of situation, and no one is kind of expecting sports people and especially Formula One drivers to as a totally owned and closed sport to go outside of the quote unquote party line. So, to have him and Sebastian Vettel, two that I know, I could guess the other drivers might have said things, but those two specifically have done things in this race and previous races, that I think are positive and that we on this podcast think are positive. And I liked what Lewis said quite clearly that, yes, it's difficult knowing, coming here and kind of it's blurry, but there's a positive thing as long as we do stuff to call out, human rights grievances and concerns where the country should be doing better, then you can he didn't say this specifically, but then you can kind of justify coming here as long as you're going to make that positive change and as long as you don't kind of magic wand it away and be well, at least having a sport here is good. People will see the country and it will become more normalized, but only if you call out the narrative that you need to and call out the problems, which you did, which is great. I mean, I think I saw an interview with maybe the Qatari sports minister, something like that was we come under too much unfair scrutiny. Hey, anyone can come here and watch this race without changing their, people of all types, and sexualities and all this kind of stuff. And I was all right, mate. You're fine with visitors coming and being and doing and acting however they like, as long as they're not citizens and you don't want to keep them down, or take away their rights or, unfairly subjugate them to atrocities. So, it continues. Particularly disappointed in just the huge amount of celebrities that were there being it's the greatest. Oh my God, this is so good. Thank you so much for hosting us. Because they're all the footballers especially there because they're all ambassadors for the Qatari World Cup next year. So this was all just a big PR stunt. Just so we...
Sadly, yes.
And the race is crap. So what do we actually get out of this weekend? Who knows?
It was nice of the drivers to go there and, as a protest, put on the worst race that we've seen in a long time.
That was it.
That was a real finger up the date for them. But anyway, look, I mean, the only thing worse than going there and calling this out is going there and not calling it out. So good on them. I'd still rather they didn't go there. I'd still rather they publicly said we're not going to go there because of this and that. But if they're going to go there, when they arrive and the spotlight shines on Formula One and they go, we have Formula One, it's up to Formula One to turn around and go, yep, and we have some opinions and we're about to share them. And, that's not always the right thing to do, but in this case, it needs to be done. So look, good on them for doing that. I was in two minds about Qatar, but definitely, I'm in one mind about Saudi Arabia and it's not good. So there it is. But look, they call it out. Good on them. More of it, please.
We'll run out of races to podcast about if we stopped at the rate that we're adding races in questionable political countries. Then
what? Look, if they keep going to, if they honestly went to, let's say half of the calendar was countries with very, very incredibly questionable human rights records, I would wrap up the podcast and be that's fine. I'd stop watching Formula One. I'm done. This sport is doing more harm than good. But we're not in that situation yet. It's not that dire.
Don't worry.
Look.
Formula One's only run by oil, cigarette companies, and car manufacturers. That's fine.
Government, the system works by outlawing certain kinds of advertising. Censorship is a good thing. You heard it here first. Maybe we need one positive thing to go out on. So let's, between us, Let's come up with something because we can't go out on that note.
Well, no, what I was going to say is that genuinely, we have a world championship. It's on, right? And we've got the drama, regardless if you're sick of it or not. At least, we got two guys who have personalities. So we're like, you know what? I might fucking run you off the road to win this world championship. And it's like, oh, that could fucking happen. Actually, that'll be really good.
Yeah.
And they're racing sometimes. I know that Verstappen couldn't really catch Hamilton this weekend, but we've got a couple of pretty, we've got Saudi Arabia next, but at least hopefully, imagine if it was still really close, like a couple of points in it in Abu Dhabi. It is Abu Dhabi, right, to finish? I always get confused. All these countries.
Sure is.
Feel similar. Yeah, Abu Dhabi. It's a good track, We could, and imagine if they qualify 1 or 2, and imagine if the last race of the season, we've got those two guys separated by mere points, that the win is going to make the difference going into T1 in the last race. That would be amazing. That would be really, really, really good. So let's hope that happens and we don't get a stupid DNF at the next race.
Yeah, and let's hope that it's decided by good racing, wheel-to-wheel racing, and, fair but hard racing, not penalties, not engine grid drops, not that kind of thing. We don't want to see that. We want to see good hard racing and a fair fight, and then the best man wins.
And, Brendan, big heart racing too.
Yes. Shall we wrap it up there?
Yes, please.
Thanks for listening. Our website is superlicense.fm. Zach, the FM stands for?
Formula Men.
If websites are not your kind of thing, you haven't worked them out yet, just stick to Twitter. We're at Superlicense. You can email us at superlicencepodcast.
And not websites, then I can't help you.
Go to Twitter, tap on the link. Actually, I think that sends you to the Patreon. Also, thank you for the Patreon supporters. If you want to send us an email, superlicencepodcast@gmail.com. Anything that's on your mind, if you've had an F1 dream, if you've got some feedback or thoughts for us or questions, or you just want to say we're doing a good job, don't tell us if we're doing a bad job. We know it.
Especially if we've got a quiz question or answer wrong, then
yes,
tweet
not
at
interested.
Gordon.
No.
Rodney Gordon.
No.
He wants to know everything about that. Yes.
Oh, goodness me. All right. Just tweet me. My handle is at @underthebus. Thanks, Zach.com. Did we cover that? We did Twitter. We did Discord. Jump in the Discord if you like.
Then the bus. So then it's like under the bus.
Underscore the bus. Very good.
Yeah. Discord, yes.
We've just finished a triple header, so there's a race off next week, meaning we're not going to do race off, but we'll have a race off. But we're not going to have a week off. We're going to be doing a show. We'll do a shakedown next week, and then I don't know what we're going to do the week after that. We'll work it out. And yeah, so be prepared for all of that stuff. Anything else, Zach?
No, be prepared. I love that idea. Be prepared. People,
prepared.
Get your rest up, eat well, do your exercise.
Stand down and stand by.
Because there's going to be some podcast episodes that aren't about races. So be prepared.
That's a good idea, actually. Send us questions and comments for us to read out on the next episode of Shakedown. Questions, comments, superlicencepodcast@gmail.com, or just at Twitter @superlicense. Questions, comments, we'll read them out, and that'll make a show.
Exactly.
Thanks very much
That's
for listening. That was the Qatar Twang Did a Little Thing Grand Prix, and until 2 years from now when the next Qatar Grand Prix is, and for the whole time in between, my name has been Rod.
And my name has been Zach.
West Outro ever. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.